I was severely tortured.
More than a decade ago, when we prosecuted Liberian President Charles Taylor for the crimes in Sierra Leone, and then later was ambassador at large for President Obama for 6 years for global justice. And I've been back to Gambia several times.
But it's very likely that prosecution will be recommended for people like Yaya Jammeh.
Those who committed human rights violations will have their day in court, especially those who bear the greatest responsibilities, and also to help the victims to heal, to help the victims also to get closure. I think this is very important that we prepare the ground before the TRRC report is out, so that we are not taken over by surprise. We are prepared, and we work together with the victims and all the actors and to support government to come out with a clear plan for the implementation of the TRRC report.
Hello viewers, and welcome back once again, and I am Musa Trawale. You're watching this live on VM International TV. Just to remind you, today we are at OIC Conference Center in the Gambia, and just to let you know, the reason why we are here today is as a result of international conference from Truth to Justice, the implementation of TRLC recommendation on prosecutions. Now we really want to find out whether the victims and the perpetrators will definitely face justice. We all are aware that there are a lot of people here today that came to share their ideas together, and we believe that a lot of informations will be shared on that future. Everything actually, but then I will try to have few people that really talk or share their ideas here with us to ask them some free questions that will definitely be very vital to you. So on that note, stay positive, and we'll be right back. Yes, sir, how are you?
I'm good.
Your name again?
Emmanuel Joof.
Emmanuel, can you tell us exactly why are we here today? Why do you think this is very important?
This conference is important because it is looking at the possible framework that will be put in place once the TRRC recommendations, the report is handed over to the government, and how to go about implementing those recommendations. So this is why we have here experts all over the world who are well known in the area of transitional justice. These are people who have actually prosecuted crimes against humanity and the like. So it's really important to have this kind of conference so that we can bring all the experts together and look at the possible mechanisms that will put in place once the recommendations are handed over to the government.
What's your name?
My name is Stephen Rapp. Been to Gambia many times. I was in the region as the prosecutor of the Special Court for Sierra Leone more than a decade ago, when we prosecuted Liberian President Charles Taylor for the crimes in Sierra Leone, and then later was ambassador at large for President Obama for 6 years for global justice. And I've been back to Gambia several times, particularly to work with my friends here on the kind of experience that I've had in other courts, not just the one in Sierra Leone, but also the Rwanda genocide, to help them establish a court and a system for following up on whatever the Truth and Reconciliation and Reparations Commission recommends.
That's very beautiful, and we are glad that you are here. Tell us exactly, do you think the Gambian victims are going to have justice? Because we have had them over the TV on the TRLC. So do you think they are going to have justice from the perpetrators?
Well, it's up to the people of the Gambia, and the president who's elected here in just 17 days will obviously play an important role in this, as will members of the National Assembly that are elected in the parliamentary elections. But I think it's quite clear that the people demand this. We have a law, after all, in this country, the TRRC law, that said that it's to make recommendations about prosecutions, and we suspect very strongly, given the kind of evidence that they heard, that there will be recommendations for prosecutions of the greatest responsible, not the lower level people that followed orders and were, not that they don't have some culpability, but the ones who really made these crimes happen. And that has been attempted in other places, failed in other places, but succeeded also. And it's only really worked where there's been a lot of international cooperation and assistance, and the experience of what worked can be brought here, and the mistakes that were made elsewhere won't be repeated here. But then I think there is the real possibility in this country, because of the transition, because of the talent and ability of the people of this country, many of whom I've worked with internationally, like I worked with Hassan Jallow and Fatou Bensouda and Issa Cissé and others that have gone out to the world and have been real leaders. I think there's a great possibility in this country with the right approach that we could have justice for the real perpetrators here. And I think it's essential that we do that for the victims of these crimes, but also to prevent these crimes from happening again.
I would love to also ask this question because the TRRC report is yet to be out. How do you think this implementation will definitely take place?
Well, I mean, obviously, once the report is out, then it'll be up to the current president the president who's elected to respond within 6 months. It'll be in the hands of Parliament how to implement it. I do think a key part of this whole process will be negotiating with international partners. I mean, one of the ideas is a hybrid court, which is like we had in Sierra Leone, but it doesn't have to be exactly like that. But there are going to be benefits to having a partnership with other countries, so you can bring in the international law and experience and the capacity and the assistance that's needed to make these kind of cases work in court. I mean, we had the NIA case here, which has taken a long time to prosecute, and you've got real complications when you have to show what was happening within a regime and where the orders were given and who really pulled the strings. And we need to use what's been gained elsewhere, where we prosecuted and convicted Charles Taylor or those who made the genocide in Rwanda happen, use that experience and the legal tools that were developed, use them here in just the way the people of this country want to use them, picking the right ones and discarding the wrong ones, and have a just process where senior leaders are tried, and if the evidence is strong enough to convict, they're convicted. If the evidence isn't strong, if it's challenged, then of course they'd be acquitted.
Yeah. And now that we are here, and what is going to be your major role? What are the role that you're going to play for the Gambian? Because you said it is up to the Gambians to bring to fight for their right. And now that you are here, what is going to be your personal role to defend the victims?
Well, my personal role is to assist in any way that I can. I mean, I'm after I left the administration of President Obama, I've been employed as a fellow by the Holocaust Museum, which recognizes the Holocaust during World War II of the Jewish people, but also has as its theme that it should never happen again to anybody else. And I will continue to travel to various places to help in these processes, to do whatever I can do to be of assistance.
Yeah. And finally, before we go, what is your message to the people, especially to the perpetrators that has not appeared? What is your message to them?
Well, the measure is to go through a process of justice, to tell the truth, to ask forgiveness. One can, I think, relieve some of the sentence of a process by participating in the process of justice. But clearly, there needs to be a process, and those that have done very serious crimes need to recognize those crimes, and the system as well, whatever they say in terms of apology, also has an obligation to make sure that there is appropriate punishment.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.
I'm the regional director for Article 19, which is an organization that defends human rights, particularly freedom of expression and access to information.
It's beautiful that you are here at this conference room, and then we realize that there's a big meeting going on organized by Gambian Bar Association. Tell us, why are you present here?
Yeah, we are here. I was here to share experience and also to give a presentation on accountability as a human rights lawyer, as also somebody who has been working on supporting victims, defending human rights during the Jammeh regime, and working on the Gambia. Well, I was here to share my experience and also to discuss strategies on ensuring that there is accountability post TRRC, and then we also discuss how we will together work to support the implementation of the TRRC recommendations when they come out.
When the recommendation comes out, then there will be the stage for now implementation. You can't just sit and wait. So you must start to design the possible mechanisms that will be in place. For example, if it is prosecution, is it going to be within the Gambia? Is it going to be a hybrid court within the Gambian system? Or is it going to be for prosecution outside the country? We should also start looking at what the best practices. We had the president of the Liberia Bar Association, whose country went through a similar process. What were the lessons learned? What were the challenges? What were the opportunities? So that we can do ours better than what happened in some other jurisdiction.
And so finally, I want to know, do you think that the perpetrator will be brought to justice, most especially the former president of Republic of the Gambia, Yaya Jammeh?
Well, if you look at the terms of reference of the TRRC, it says that prosecution should be recommended for those who bear the greatest responsibilities. And if you have been watching the TRRC, that the junglers came and gave their testimonies, and all of them pointed out to the fact that they had instructions from the head of state.
Definitely.
So I cannot guess what will be in that report, but it's very likely that prosecution will be recommended for people like Yaya.
It's delayed, but it's going to be out. I think when it's out, we are going to monitor. We're going also to analyze what the recommendations are concretely, and from there will be strategies to support and ensure that the government implements some of the recommendations, and then we support all the actors, especially the victims, civil society organization, for them to keep going, also to have their voice heard, so that at the end of the day this process will be meaningful to the Gambians, and those who committed human rights violations will have their day in court, especially those who bear the greatest responsibilities, and also to help the victims to heal, to help the victims also to get closure. I think this is very important that we prepare the ground before the TRRC report is out, so that we are not taken over by surprise. We are prepared, and we work together with the victims and all the actors and to support government to come out with a clear plan for the implementation of the TRRC report.
Finally, before we go, we have heard from various victims. What is your message to the perpetrators that has not been appearing, most especially to the the former president of Republic of the Gambia?
Well, just to say that it will take time, but there will be justice, and I do believe that impunity is not something that will be considered, and it's important for all those who committed human rights violations to know that there will be accountability, and for those who are in the leadership position to know that they will have their day in court to account for what they've done, and to account for all the atrocities that were committed also under their direction.
Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share our
My name is Tiawan Gongloe. I'm a lawyer. I'm from Liberia. I am the president of the Liberia National Bar Association.
Okay. At the moment you are in the Gambia. Tell us, what is your mission in the Gambia?
I'm in the Gambia to attend this conference.
Louder?
To attend this conference on what will happen to the outcome of the TRRC process. You know, we had a TRRC process in Liberia, and virtually nothing happened to the outcome. And the victims are clamoring for justice in Liberia. Sierra Leone had a TRRC process, and there was a justice mechanism put in place. So the victims in Sierra Leone were largely satisfied by the process, and they have put closure to the conflict. Liberia remains open. So Liberia, I was brought here to explain to the Gambians so that they don't become the Liberians, so that they can be like Sierra Leone.
Okay, what are your experience? What really motivated you to come? Because looking at it, there are a lot of people that are victims in the Gambia and they need justice from the perpetrator. And now that you have a lot of experiences, tell us exactly some of your stories that can touch the people out there.
I'm a human rights lawyer. I've been a human rights lawyer most of my time. I also became Solicitor General of Liberia. I became Minister of Labor. Now I resigned from President Salib's government, and I'm back in the private practice of law. I was a victim of human rights abuse under Taylor because I was representing journalists, human rights advocates, pro-democracy activists, and opposition politicians. I became a victim of what I was defending them from. I was put in jail overnight. The next morning I was taken to the hospital and spent 7 days in the hospital. I was severely tortured. So I've been a victim, and as someone who suffered this, and I've been advocating and defending rights of people, it's just good to participate in these kinds of discussions in West Africa in fighting against impunity. If we don't take the right steps, then there will be a continuous cycle of violence, and impunity will strengthen perpetrators. And that is why I'm here, to be part of this discussion, to inform it, so that Gambia does not make the same mistakes that Liberia made. The Liberian electors voted people into government who were perpetrators of war crimes and crimes against humanity, against the Liberian people. Now, you do not expect perpetrators to enact laws that will affect their interest. So, although the TRRC made recommendations for prosecution of people, nothing is happening because the people in Parliament who set the budget and authorized the executive to govern in the interest of the people are not interested in supporting processes that will lead to their prosecution.
And then finally, do you think that Gambian TRRC will make a positive move, especially the victims that are in need of justice? Do you think that they will have justice if they really push the TRRC?
We should hope for the best. But I don't want the Gambians to raise their hopes so high so that they don't get disappointed. I heard one of the speakers here saying that the fact that the government in power appointed the TRRC, the government in power will be committed to implementing the recommendations of the TRRC. Our experience in Liberia is different. President Salib established the TRRC, appointed members of the TRRC, but she did not implement the tough recommendations that call for prosecutions of those who bear the highest responsibility for the conflict, the violation of humanitarian law, human rights law that took place in Liberia. So just the fact that just because the government in power appointed the TRRC does not mean that the government in power will be committed to the outcome of the TRRC process, because politics can intervene and cause people in power to compromise. So for me, the people of Gambia should put themselves in the driver's seat by making the implementation of the TRRC recommendation a key factor in the coming electoral process. They should not vote for any suspected war criminal or suspected violator of human rights or people who will be accused, and they must clearly ask the political parties and the candidates to make a promise to them that they will implement the recommendations of the TRRC when they are elected, so that they can be judged by that.
Anyway, thank you so much for joining us, and I really appreciate it. Watching this, remember you're watching this live on VM International TV, and just to let you know, this is just a summary of what has been discussed here. Looking forward to make sure that the victims and the perpetrators are brought to justice, and the reality is what shall set us free. On that note, I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Niye men dati alsa continue. Aliye men dati kendo le mu. Niye kendo dati ebe kendo le tarala. Inyatu.
Elba kuyata yabo. Ako ina manangula kono nyino balondila. Karezi so kono nyino balondila. VM International TV. Jaling ngalis kontonde. Seo tala kuala.